Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to those of you who are a bit earlier.
Hello, hello. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So today we're going into a subject that is probably more controversial than any of the ones we've touched into, I think, so far before, as at least as an episode main thrust, I think, as from where Jen and I have gone with this before. But what we're talking about today is a term that's pretty ill-defined in the modern world. It's patriarchy, and it's often viewed as this sort of dark conspiracy to crush and suppress women, and this tyrannical regime that is there to elevate men and prevent anyone else from getting anywhere. But we want to look at why Western culture and in Christianity and so on, they're openly patriarchal structures, but that they make sense, and that it's not a structure that is there to restrict and restrain. Rather, it's a structure that's there for logical reasons, and reasons that fit both within the secular and religious views. That there are very obvious reasons why it is the case, and and we're conversely against that. We're bringing in the lie of feminism, which is that you're looking for that feminism is about trying to generate equal outcomes in an unequal world, and therefore all you ever get is oppression. So if there is an oppressive side to this, the one that tends to create the oppressive environment tends to be more the feminism one than the patriarchal. So with that, I will introduce today's episode. I'm AJ, and this is my beautiful co-host Jennifer. And between the two of us, we are going to try to navigate through this subject today.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because it is such a controversial subject. And I think, feminism, one of the reasons it came to be was to get rid of the patriarchy, right? But in turn, as we all know, and perhaps most of us would agree, a lot of us wouldn't agree, but feminism has destroyed the family. It has destroyed actually women, which was the point. I mean, it's meant to bring up women, which I'm all for women empowerment. Like, I want to do great things in life, and I want to have the opportunities to do great things in life. But feminism it's
not the way to get that.
It's not. It's a way to ruin yourself. Like, feminism has not only ruined women, it has emasculated men and destroyed our nation, which maybe we can get back, maybe we can't, but it has destroyed so many things. But patriarchy, it's biblical. So I'm just going to start with a verse, okay? Sure. And it's 1 Corinthians 11:3. The head of every man is Christ. The head of a woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. Okay. And this is where we get submission. Now, people also think that word is really bad, just like patriarchy, but submission from a wife to a husband is actually a good thing. At the end of the day, patriarchy and submission are meant to create order. God is a God of order. And without order, you have, what is the opposite? Chaos.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time, there has been order, and there's been a hierarchy. It's God, man, woman. And as unfortunate or as offensive as that may sound to women, it is what feels natural if you let go, if you just surrender to that. And that's what will lead you into higher places. Now, the patriarchy is it's not meant to oppress women. It's not meant to oppress anybody. It's meant to, again, create order and lift people up, right? especially Christian patriarchy, right? Like it is the woman, I would arguably say, is treated the best in that scenario. She, right? Like this is all for her benefit. The way that God designed this is all for the woman's benefit. The man is the one who has the most responsibility. And he has to actually like submit to God, which is a hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to do in order for this to actually work in the way that he designed.
Yes. No, I think that's you've hit the nail on the head really well there, and I think it's I think the difficulty with that some people have is that it's very obvious these days there's been a very deep weaponization of language, and all of the terms that fit within the patriarchal structures have been weaponized into things that are supposedly bad. So anybody who the masculine, any kind of masculinity was labeled toxic for a long time. Any kind of submission from any kind of submission from a woman was seen as oppression dressed up with a different word, and it's the entire thing comes from that lie. And actually, it was quite interesting that we were talking about this briefly the other week with relationship to politics, and how women tend to vote overwhelmingly for left-wing collectivist policies, and men tend to vote far more for right-wing, more individually empowering policies. That just tends to be the way that they go. So when you look at the way that that's been framed, what happens is the feminism approach has been to, as you say, kind of take the nuclear family apart.
Yeah.
And now what you get is the natural state of a woman is to nurture. The natural state of a woman is to look after people. That's why women are generally mentally more collectivist in their thinking. They tend to be more left-leaning because the whole point is to look after people, look after their needs, look after their requirements, keep everyone happy. Now,
the left is a more empathic.
Yes,
path.
It would claim that it was, but what tends to happen is that what happens instead is that women who have children and have a family and so on, they nurture within their family. They protect their children from the outside world. They look at the threats that could be for their children, and they will naturally start to look for things that are going to protect from those. Women who don't have children tend instead to extrapolate outwards. And so therefore, instead of the children being their actual children, their children are the so-called oppressed in society. They are the people who need help. They're the people who are not who are just coming here for a better life, or so on and so on. It's very easy to see how that mothering-like technology, mothering-like approach has been grown out over time into mothering society, and then that's when you get into this what they used to refer to as the nanny state.
The nanny state. I've never heard that term.
Yeah, so it was quite a big thing. It is more of a British kind of term, but the nanny state is the state that is there to look after everyone.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, it also makes sense that so many women, back to the immigration stuff we've been talking about, like, it is easy to find yourself as a woman feeling like, even my oldest daughter, who is conservative, that's like the one thing that she has trouble with. Why can't we help all these people? Because what if they live in a country that they are being oppressed and they're being abused and they're afraid for their life? Why can't we help them? It is women tend to be more the person who would want to help those people.
Yes.
And it's hard to see in those cases that the law is the law, and we have borders for a reason, for protection, and it just sucks sometimes for certain people.
It does. But then the argument I always give back to people who are, especially the people who are in favor of things like open borders, for example, the simple argument back to that is, do you lock your doors at night on your house? And the answer is, of course you do. And why do you do that? You do that because you don't know who might try to come in, and what their intentions might be if they do so.
Right.
All you have to do is take that out to the scale of a nation, and the logic is exactly the same. You can't just let anybody come in.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who those people are going to be and what their intentions are.
Yeah. Again, back to the whole order thing. It causes chaos. Now, so you know that it's hard to say if I would actually consider myself a certain political party, because my political preferences are based on the Bible and biblical principles. That just happens to line up with conservative, but it's not because, yay, I'm going to go right.
Yes.
It's based on the Bible and what God has taught us to do, and what Jesus has told us. Simply. But biblically, we're supposed to have borders. Biblically, there's a patriarchy for a reason. And if God said it, and God is the one who is the creator of all, why would we want to go against that? It's obviously going to lead to destruction.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And I think the problem you get is that is relativism. So pretty much everybody who's around these days has grown up, especially anyone in the Western world, has grown up in the safest, wealthiest, most privileged society that has ever existed on the planet. And it's very easy, therefore, to grow up with no real understanding of how bad things really can be.
Yeah, I agree.
You've probably seen the meme of the strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times, and hard times therefore have to create strong men. And it's that is a repeatable, easy cycle to look at throughout history. That is the cycle that it works through. The strong created a good time, and the good time creates the weak, because the weak can exist and survive and even thrive in good times.
Yeah.
But
and then
when times get bad, you can't be weak anymore.
Right. I mean, and people, there is a push, obviously, and like I said, perhaps this is improving. There is a push to make all men weak, passive, controllable.
Yep.
Go against their actual masculinity, which is not toxic. It is very healthy and critical as an element to any society. Like we have to have strong men. We have to have strong men.
No
and
society
because
can
when
survive
women,
without them.
if you think about a marriage, even a marriage will become destroyed if the man is not strong, and if the woman, for whatever reason, has to be the masculine person, whether that's because the man has become passive, or even if the man is toxic, not as masculinity, but just a toxic person. Maybe he likes control and abuse, and then, whatever the case may be, if a man abdicates his masculinity in a relationship, the relationship is done. It's done. Unless in some now I have seen some cases like you can gain it back if you do the right things, and you can switch and you can create the polarity again. But once that polarity is gone, and because a woman is also not attracted to a weak man.
No.
Think that I'm not including myself in that. We think we might want that because we want to be independent and do the things all on our own, and we want to
Mhm.
be boss babes and all of these things.
Yeah.
But it ultimately is not how we were designed, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't work in a marriage, just like it doesn't work as a nation.
Doesn't work in
In
society,
society,
does it?
yeah,
No,
in general.
exactly. I think it's I heard some feminists arguing the other day that the US is completely patriarchal because it's never voted in a female president. Okay, only 2 women have ever run for president as like the main candidates, and both of them were completely awful, insufferable people. And that's why they didn't win. It was nothing to do with the fact they weren't women. They were women, I don't think.
I will say, as a Christian person,
Right.
I feel really bad for one of them. One of them I don't. One of them I feel really bad for.
Okay.
I don't think she's a bad person.
Are you talking about the evil one or the stupid one?
the less I'm not going to say stupid. I think she's probably really nice.
Uh-huh. I suspect not, actually, but yes, I know I know what you mean. Okay, I think that you're I see what you're saying there as well, but I think that I don't think America would have a problem with voting for a woman who was the right kind of person.
A competent person.
Yeah, a competent person. However, no competent woman has ever really run. And there is and it's often the lie pushed by feminism as well. There's like, oh, if women were in charge of things, you wouldn't have as much war, you wouldn't have as much, you wouldn't have as much anger in the world, you wouldn't have friction, all these kind of things. Whereas actually, when you look at societies that have had female rulers, they tend to be more likely to go to war, and they tend to be more likely to be aggressors than the male-run ones.
I agree, because again, if you think about the psychology of women, like, we are emotionally chaotic creatures. Not only do we love very, very hard, but we're very emotionally reactive.
Mm.
And I think that's, again, going back to just the simple dynamic of a one-on-one relationship. That's why a grounded masculine man is so important for an emotionally reactive, in general, as women we are. Like,
Yeah.
that dynamic, like, we need the grounding. And I think there are probably some outliers that would be great presidents and leaders and all of these things. There are some outliers for sure.
Yeah.
I know I couldn't do it, because I might love really, really hard one day and then get really upset and frustrated another
Very
day.
upset and frustrated the next. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I do think men have the ability to be more disciplined and grounded when it comes to logical and practical decisions.
I think you're right there. I think what we're good at as men generally in those kind of situations is we're much better at compartmentalizing and shaving off an emotion from a particular action, or from a particular event, or from a particular outcome. We're much better at keeping the emotion separate to that, and then figuring out the way to solve the situation rather than approaching it with emotional point. Plenty of men are not very good at that. There are plenty who are no good at that whatsoever, and there are plenty of men who do react emotionally, and that gets worse in the modern day as well.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's based on, like, your level of security in yourself as well. If you're an insecure person, you're going to be more emotionally reactive.
Yeah.
I will also say women tend to be more mentally strong, so there's something there too. Women are actually better investors and traders as well, which I always find interesting, because it's a very emotional game to be into investing, as you know. It can be but women are psychologically better at investing. I don't know. It's different, but
there's different approaches, and there's different. We're very different things, and that's why, if you go back to the biblical end of it, the reason it was we're created that way is because we're supposed to get into male-female relationships. and build families.
Yeah.
And both parts of that are important. The man's part is to lead and provide. That's his primary role, is lead and provide. Worry about the future, provide for the now. That's the man's role. The woman's role is to look after the now and nurture the future.
Nurture. Yep. Nurture and bring more meaning into life.
Yeah, exactly. And when both parts of a couple are aligned to that, when people work that way and think that way and approach things that way, it works.
Yeah.
The most successful marriages are the ones where people are aligned on the values, morals, ethics, and principles that they take in. And
yes.
And I think that when we're going back to this whole idea of feminism and patriarchy and so on, is that, and we touched on this briefly, but I want to go into this a little bit deeper, is the fact that Christianity is probably the best religion that going for women, for what it does for women. We mentioned before we came live that when Christianity was in its early days in ancient Rome, they were, as a kind of dismissive joke, the Romans would refer to it as the religion for women, because it gave women so much more autonomy, so much more of a place within society, within the home, within what they did, that they saw it like that. That's how they viewed it. And so I always wonder about the level of education that anyone who's pushing for feminist principles has done for themselves, because as far as I can tell, it's little or none of around the real truth behind the issues.
Yeah, feminism makes a woman's life much harder, and I think in a traditional relationship, the way it does work and what Christianity does provide to women is safety and compassion and love. It's love, like just as Christ died for the church, Christ loves the church, like a man is that to his wife. And that puts an element of extra protection, love, compassion, grace. Like the woman is cherished in Christianity. And the man is respected. And just so happens that those are the things biologically in psychology that we crave as women and women and men. Men crave respect, and women crave to be cherished and loved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great moment to quickly jump into what you do. Because I think that what you do speaks very much into this and is very connected into this whole idea, because obviously you're a masculinity coach. You're working with men who are trying to, for the most part, kind of rediscover their masculinity or reassert their masculinity or get back in touch with it. And so you're probably seeing this playing out on an individual level.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing there? And where do you see the lie, or the most common lie, that any man who has been divorced from his masculinity has believed?
Well, I think so. Of the many issues that men initially come to me for, even though I do the same thing with everybody in general, it is lack of purpose or disconnect in their marriage. Disconnect in their marriage 90% of the time has to do with the fact that the man has become passive and let the woman be in complete control of the relationship. And this is because it's been a process that's happened over time. And eventually there's so much resentment on both sides that the man doesn't care.
Yeah.
And the woman doesn't care. And they just let everything fall apart. Now, one of my favorite clients I've ever worked with, he was in this position, and he is an incredibly successful businessman. multi-billion-dollar business guy. Okay. His marriage sucked. And it was because he completely, like, while he was a wonderful leader in his business, he was not in the home. And he had 2 teenage sons as well. And he was feeling down. Luckily, this man is so driven. He implemented everything that I said, and now he has completely reversed the situation. I think for most people, it would have been harder, but he was so determined. And so not only has he regained masculinity in a very loving and compassionate way with his wife, because he started leading. It's when the man stops leading. We as women look up. We want to look up to the person we are with. We want to see him as a notch above us. Whether women want to agree with that or not, that is attractive. It's attractive. Do you want to like it? And I think the same thing also happens is that men tend to, I don't know if this is right or not, but men tend to pick partners who are a little, who they can protect and provide for.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you look at it socioeconomically, the easiest way to explain it is that women tend to select partners across and up the socioeconomic spectrum, and men tend to select across and down. And I think that's partially because that's just how people work. I think that's a big part of it, but I also think that it relates to what you're saying here, is that I don't know anyone who has been with a woman who made more money than them that they were able to make that relationship last.
It doesn't. And I have been the sole provider in 2 of the relationships I've been in, and it felt wrong and awful and gross. Because that's not like, and it's not about money.
It's not about money. Even psychologically, even though you're not necessarily thinking it on a conscious level, it eats away at your respect for the man you're with.
It does. It does. And I think, again, there's a lot more to providing than financially. Your job as a provider is to provide, for your family financially and for their protection, but also it's emotional provision as well. It's to be a space for your family. It is a place of grounding leadership. It is direction. It is, where are we going, like, as a unit, all of that stuff is really important. And when that is thrown to the side, things just don't work.
I think it relates quite nicely to the point I was touching on earlier with regard to the kind of the focus on self rather than the unit. So as a man, you're programmed to protect and provide. That's just how you're programmed. So you're always going to look for the place where you can do that. And the people you can do that with. And if you don't have that in your family, you're going to usually have a business where you're doing that, or you're involved in a company where you're doing that. So, you're in the military or whatever it happens to be, you're going to be in something where that's what you're doing. And for women, they're looking for for that protection and the cherishment and the and being the sort of the carer and the stability and so on within the relationship, within whatever they're doing. And so you get the same thing playing out on macro levels as well as you do on the micro level. And again, once you're taking away from women not having children, not having families, and so on, they push that desire out onto the world around them. Rather than focusing on their own things and on their own little family or wherever it happens to be. But what this does is what you're getting there is if you've got 2 people coming in who have got completely selfish approaches to things. So if the woman wants to do her career, have as much fun as she wants, go out with her friends all the time, get drunk, go party, and all that sort of stuff. And she wants to keep doing that, even when she's married and got kids. And the husband says, well, no, that's not really what we want to be doing here. I want, you should be here in the house, helping, looking after the children, helping the family. And that's what the point is. That's not going to work. The same thing happens if the man is so selfish that actually he's got a wife, he's got children or whatever else, but he's not interested in looking after them. He's not interested in actually providing and so on. He just wants to go out and do whatever he wants to do all the time, and he's never at home. He's always down the bar drinking or wherever, going off with his friends and so on. The same thing happens because neither person is committed to the family unit and fulfilling their actual role.
They're not invested at all. And I think that is a trap that some men get into, because some men do financially provide, but they have crappy marriages because they're not actually present. Presence of the man is really, really important.
And they're not leading because they're not present.
Right. Yeah. And so back to this client that I had, he started becoming the leader again, and he started providing direction for his family. He became very goal oriented. He was very clear with his boundaries and his standards for his family, which I think is also really important. Again, when you become passive in some way and you throw away all your boundaries, again, you're going to have a chaotic household that's not going to be fulfilling whatsoever. And so this client was just amazing in the way that he was able to gain back his family. And wouldn't you know that intimacy increased, respect from his children increased, respect from his wife increased, love for his wife increased. Everything just fell back into place.
Yes, everything got better when that structure fell back into place.
Yeah,
the natural structure of things.
Yes, exactly.
I was explaining it to my daughter the other day, and she's almost 8, and she was talking to me the other day about this, and she was saying. And she was asking the question, okay, so you're, she said something along the lines of, I think my wife had been talking to her about something, and she was talking to me, and so she said, so you're in charge? And I said, yes. And she said, so does mummy not get to make any decisions? I said, no. I said, she's the second most important in the house. I'm the person that is the leadership of the family. I'm the person that has the final say on a decision, whether, even if mum disagrees or not, it's my final decision on those things. But I listen to her. It's not like I dismiss everything she ever says and just go, no, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I still listen to what she says. I get to
you value what she says, and that's
exactly. And I value what she says. And but if we're at an impasse and we can't agree, the decision defaults to me. Yes. That's the way that it works. I said, but that doesn't mean that she's at the level of the children. She's in charge of the children. She's not a child in the family. She is the queen of the family, and I'm the king of the family. The easiest way to explain it is that she's the second in command of the family, and the same thing applies across the board. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that is missed out by the radical feminists, of the idea of, oh, well, if you're submitting to a man, then you don't have any autonomy, you don't have any value, you don't have anything. Actually, before the kind of women's suffrage movement and so on, women had a very powerful place in society because they were extremely privileged in not having to deal with a lot of the things that men had to deal with. But now they've got to deal with all the same things that men deal with most of the time.
Yeah, which is why feminism has made it worse for women.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like now we've become a defensive, masculine gender. And that's not how we were designed. And I say that from my own personal experience. Like as a single mom of 3 children and running my business and taking care of my parents and all of our finances and all of the things that a guy would normally do in my position, like it is actually, and while trying to remain my feminine self and not give her up, it is exhausting. And is not how I was created to be. And,
you're effectively the man of your house.
I am. And it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right, and there's a reason for that.
Yes, exactly, and it's funny because I'm a member of a men's group in my church, and I was and we were talking about something here the other day, and one of the guys was talking and saying that one of the things that men figure out quite early on is well, any man that's paying attention figures out quite early on is no one cares about your problems.
Yeah.
As a man, you can't complain about your problems.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. They're your problems. You've got to solve them. That's the way the world works.
It's true.
As a woman, people do care about your problems.
Yes.
and people will try to solve your problems, especially men. Will try to solve your problems. If you tell them what the problems are, men will try to fix them. And that's why I remember hearing a story about a woman who was divorcing her husband for apparently no reason, because she felt that he never listened to her, because whenever she was talking to him about anything that was wrong, he was trying to fix it.
Okay.
And she just got very angry about the fact that he wasn't listening to her. And so was basically planning on divorcing her husband. And I remember the other person who was there talking to her said, but you don't realize that that's what he's programmed to do.
Yeah. And it actually feels good. Like I was going to say, and a lot of women, I do hear them say that, like, why can't he just listen to me? Why does he always have to fix everything? I want him to fix it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I would like someone to fix the problem. Exactly. Yeah, I know. I think I can't remember who it was. I remember a guy talking about it once, and he said he's learned to ask his wife when she starts telling him something, is this a listening conversation or a fix it conversation?
Yes, that's so good.
And so when she starts, she's like, okay, I said listening. Okay, I'll just shut up and just listen. Whereas,
that is a great question.
Yeah, if you want me to fix it, then tell me, and I'll try to help fix it.
Yeah. See, that could save a lot. And then you've set the parameters for the conversation. Just like I think weekly meetings with your spouse, like, how can I serve you better? Which is like something that everybody should ask their spouse, like both ways. How can I serve you better? Erica Kirk is the one who made that like a famous question, I think. Yeah. Hopefully it is by now. I don't know. But she said that Charlie asked her that, every day, every week, how can I serve you better? That's an important, but I think it should go both ways. Yeah. How can I serve you better? I think, because some of the things that people miss about the patriarchy is that it is servant. Yes, there is hierarchy, but it is servant leadership. A true patriarchy, like the way that God designed. It is servant leadership in the form of hierarchy, yes, but it's there for a reason.
Well, there's hierarchy everywhere. The whole idea that you can eliminate hierarchy is frankly nonsensical. The more you look into just about everything, and even when you look into you go down and look at animals and things like that, there's hierarchies within everything. And the reason that's the case is because you need order. And order comes through hierarchy, because it can't come through any other way. You can't create order with a flat hierarchy, with nobody being in charge of anything. How do you create any kind of order? How do you set any kind of direction? How do you create a homogenized set of values and principles without any kind of hierarchy?
Yeah, you have to have it. I mean, going back to when Moses puts out the 10 Commandments, I mean, there is a hierarchy there. Like, God is at the top of the mountain. Moses is the only one who can go onto the mountain. Nobody else can touch it. Yeah. There are like guidelines and boundaries and consequences for all kinds of actions. Before the commandments were even like a thing, like do this for 3 days. Don't touch any women. Don't do anything crazy. Prepare. And on this third day, I'm going to come and I'm going to give you some instructions. And that's where the 10 Commandments come from. But even the 10 Commandments protect women, unborn children. Like, women are always protected in the Christian patriarchy.
exactly. And I think that's, there's this often misinterpreted idea that the system is set up to benefit men. Whereas when you actually look at it, if you step back from the the ideological look, and you step back, the system within the West is set up to benefit women.
Absolutely.
It's
And have the pressure.
it's entirely set up to benefit women. It's got a huge amount of benefit for women that men don't have.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of privileges that women have that men don't. One of the best ones I've ever heard about with regard to the abortion debate is, okay, so if as a woman you get to decide whether or not you want to bring the baby to term or not, do you not get that choice as a man? Should the man be able to turn around and say, well, I don't want to have the baby?
No. Well,
nobody should.
You probably know about my feelings on the subject in general.
Of course, yeah. And my feelings are very, very similar to yours. I'm somebody that believes that abortion should be as restricted as it can within reason. And what I mean by that is I'm kind of very similar to the viewpoint of the current administration, where life of the mother, incest, rape, things like that. I can have an understanding as to why there could be exceptions, very early stage exceptions. I don't like it. I don't ever want anybody to have to do it. I don't. I believe the same way as you do, that the moment of conception, a new life starts, and no matter what you're doing, you are killing a child.
Yeah.
In that situation. Now, the problem comes down to that there are a very large group of people who seem these days to want to just be able to use it as a late term of as a late version of contraception, which is utterly abhorrent when you really think about it. For any more than a couple of seconds, it's disgusting when you think about it. But that is what people are using it as, and that's all come about because of the lie of feminism.
Yes, the lie of feminism, and it trickles into especially young people. And there was even a time, I'm going through this, am I freezing? Oh my gosh, I'm freezing.
You're freezing slightly, yes. I don't know if is your battery running low again?
It's my battery. Can I go get my charger?
Go plug yourself in. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Hold on 1 second.
We'll take a short intermission. I'll cover. I'll run cover while you do that.
Okay, perfect. How do I turn my camera off?
While Jen is sorting out camera issues, I'm going to answer a couple of the questions and things. Some of the things that have been mentioned in the comments. So Renee, men in politics have hijacked feminism to use in their political and monetary gain. Absolutely. Everybody has. I think there's plenty of women in politics that use feminism for their own ends rather than actually caring about the plight of women at all. So I think that's entirely true. It has been, as so many things do, it has been corrupted and usurped by the people that only want to use it for their own benefit. And that is what's happened. And Frankie, yes, a man leading a prayer with their wife before they both go to bed is a game changer. It checks many boxes. I mean, I think you're right. Being able to look at things and take that outside view, and between the two of you lead each other. That is completely correct. Oh, Jen was back momentarily there and gone again. I'm sure she'll be back with us very soon. And yeah, thank you so much for all the other comments, people. Doug, I know you joined us late, but I'm glad you're with us. And here we are. Jen is back with us.
Still frozen, aren't I?
still frozen at the moment. You might need to, but you're plugged in now. There you go. You're moving again.
I am plugged in. Yeah. I apologize.
Right, it's all right. No problem. No problem. I was just answering some of the questions and responding to some of the chats while you were while you were gone. Okay, so where were we at when you?
Yes, I wanted to touch on what you were just saying, Frankie's comment about man leading prayer. So that in my book, which is the Bible, that is another job of a man's provision, is spiritual leadership and bringing his wife closer to God.
Yes.
Yes.
And it touches back on the verse of Corinthians that you read at the beginning, which is that the head of man is Jesus, and the head of Jesus is God, but the head of woman is man. So it's that hierarchy. It's God, Jesus, man, woman, and that doesn't mean you are entirely a slave to that person, which is what so many people want to immediately jump on as the thing that upsets them about that whole statement. It's about putting your faith in the leadership to that person. So I, as a man, put my faith in leadership to Jesus. Jesus puts his faith in leadership to God, and my wife puts her faith in leadership in me. And that's the way that it works, and that's the way that that society has achieved what it's achieved. If you look at what has happened in the Western world, it is the rate of societal progress has been incredible. As far as we can see in any kind of history, there has never been a time when technology and quality of life has accelerated so fast. It would never ever seen it before. Now, when you there's a very good book that I recommend reading called Civilization. It's written by a guy called Neil Ferguson.
Okay.
And in that he talks about all the key applications that the West was able to use to create the modern world. And there's a particular part of that book where the most westernized non-Western country in the world is Japan.
Okay.
And the Japanese did that intentionally. They looked at the way that the Western world was working, and they said, we need to be more like that. And so they studied it very deeply, and they started moving themselves across to follow that kind of way. And when the scholars had looked over it, they put down, the Japanese scholars put down the key thing that they said was the primary driver in Western success.
Okay.
And they said it was religion.
Yes.
They said the top thing that allowed everything else to happen, that allowed property rights, that allowed freedom of expression, that allowed the ability to build companies and build businesses and explore the world and so on, because the Western world was built on commerce. It wasn't built on conquest.
Mm-hmm.
It was built with commerce. Although there was some conquest took place, but the conquest was as a result of the necessity for commerce. Nobody sat in England one day and said, oh, we're going to go halfway around the world and invade India because we want it.
Yeah.
That wasn't what happened. What happened was there was a very, very powerful company called the East India Company, who were at the time the richest and most powerful company in the world, with more money than most nations. They had their own army, their own navy, and they established about 40 cities around the world. They were trading a lot of stuff in India and said to the British government, we're having problems with the locals, with this, with that, and so on. And so they went out there and sent troops out there to take over the parts of it that weren't helping.
Yeah.
There were large parts of the Indian nation which allied with the British and helped them take out the Maharajas, for example. So it wasn't like it was one of these conquests where they just waded in and killed everybody. That wasn't what happened. There was large parts of the Indian nation that allied with the British because they saw the advantage in the commerce.
Yeah.
And so, when you're looking at it these ways, it's very interesting that so much of what we are told about how we have gotten to where we are is based on a lie. is based on lies which are designed to undermine where we are.
Yeah, that's first of all, thank you for the history lesson. I didn't know all that, or if I did, I forgot it. But what you just said goes back to our original point in our first episode, is that truth can only be truly objective, and anything else because when God is taken out of the equation, it becomes subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And things. Yeah.
Well, it's a very interesting one. I don't know if I think I mentioned him last time, Andrew Wilson, who does quite a lot of these things in Orthodox Christian, does quite a lot of podcasts and debates and things like that. And one of the things he always says, especially when he's talking to people who are sort of, professing themselves to be atheists and so on, he'll often say to them, okay, so what do you tether your morality to? Because if it's not God, what is it? And usually their answer is, okay, what I think, what I feel, and so on and so on. So he says, well, in that case, you can shift your morality based on how you feel.
Yeah.
There's nothing actually anchoring it at all. But, your feelings can change, and therefore your morality can change too.
Yep. That's a dangerous thing.
And that is a dangerous thing. And you can see that. You can see the way that plays out.
We sure can.
Yeah, you really can. And again, that's very much connected to that. I mean, I remember you were aware that the lady who created Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, was a eugenicist, don't you?
So I don't know that whole story. I've heard bits and pieces.
Yeah. So she was who believed in eugenics.
Yeah.
And she intentionally set up Planned Parenthood and put it in all of the original setups were put in minority neighborhoods.
Okay. Oh gosh, how evil.
Yeah. The entire underlying point of it was to eliminate minorities.
Right.
That's what it was there for.
I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd heard parts of it. Like I said, I don't think I knew that's really, really awful.
And they were caught fairly recently selling the parts of the aborted children as well.
No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's satanic. She was connected in some way to the Church of Satan. I can't remember exactly where that was, but she was connected to the guy who founded that.
Serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy crap.
The entire abortion machine is demonic.
I did not know Wow. Okay. That puts a whole different spin on that for me. Wow.
It does. And when you see that and you find out about that and you look into that, the further you look, the worse it gets. It's like the Epstein files thing. The more you look into it, the worse it gets. It's the same with the whole abortion thing. It's the more you look, the worse it gets. It's there's a parody account on X called which is the parody account of Satan, and some of the posts that come up on there are quite funny sometimes, and but it's designed to sort of parody what real evil looks like.
Yeah.
And there's a particular post about abortion where Satan is basically saying, he goes, I struggle with the abortion debate because on one side I like killing children, but on the other side I hate giving women a choice. And the whole thing is very, very succinct, but a great piece of parody to point out how ridiculous the entire idea is.
Yeah, gosh, that's crazy that there's an account like that.
Well,
wow.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's but I think it's run by somebody who's actually quite conservative. But I think it's designed for parody. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a really conservative guy. Gosh, what is his name? But he does a parody account where he like goes around different towns and he's like the most he like identifies as a native Indian woman.
Yeah.
Like it's
I've
like
seen
stuff
some of
like
those,
that.
and it's really funny because there's nobody who he talks to can debunk any of the stuff that he's saying, because it's all the logical fallacy that they're living within that they can't
Yeah.
get out of, which is always amusing. But yeah, I think for me the most interesting thing that I find in this is that whenever you are, because I moved from England relatively recently and moved here, and we moved into an area intentionally that was very Christian, very traditional, very conservative. We moved into this area intentionally, and the longer we're here, the better a place it is. Clearly, it is clearly a better place. The longer we're here, the more obvious it becomes that it's a better place to be in.
Than in the UK.
Than in the UK, because, well, especially in the UK where we were, and in general, it's very secular in the UK. There's such a small Christian community in the UK.
Yeah.
It's very, very small. But this area is very patriarchal.
Yeah.
You don't get any women on the preaching at church. You don't get any women running any of the local groups and things like that. There's a couple of women's groups that women run and things like that, but you don't get any of the the mayor is always male. It's a very patriarchal kind of society, but in a way that functions clearly incredibly well, because it's a very good area.
It's a good area.
People want to live in the area because it's a good area, because it's a very affluent area. It's a very safe area. It's a very Christian area, and it's a very good area to live in.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I talk about this area all the time, and it's not the most beautiful area of the world. I definitely like the views of the UK much better, but I will never move from here because it is a wonderful place to live.
Yeah, it really is. And the UK is got some pretty places in it, and during the summer, in England, it's beautiful. There's green rolling hills everywhere, and it's not too hot, not too cold. It's a lovely place to live and be when things are going well.
Yeah.
and when it's good. Unfortunately, it's not like that very much.
Yeah, there are a lot of political issues, right?
Yeah, there's a major number of political issues, all kinds of really bad political issues going on there. They recently prevented the Christian march happening in London because it would offend Muslims.
And can't people get arrested if they say something negative? I can't remember towards what, but something negative on social media, they can get arrested.
All kinds of things. People have been arrested for all kinds of things on social media. They've been arrested for criticizing immigration. They've been arrested for criticizing the government. They've been arrested for trying to push Christian values. There's been a whole load of things. It's the highest arrests of any country in the world for social media posts is the UK.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. That's scary.
More than Russia and China.
Wow.
More arrests in the UK for social media posts than Russia and China.
I was very outspoken in my time. Every time I've been to the UK, I'm outspoken to people. I wonder if they hate me.
Yeah. I'm very outspoken, and I don't hold back my feelings and thoughts and opinions on things, and that was another reason behind moving. I was thinking of moving anyway. I am American. I was, I've just grew up in the UK, so I ended up with the accent and so on. But I began to fear for the safety of my family. Mm-hmm. Is what I actually started to fear for. That we were almost at the point where we were considering whether or not there was, and it wouldn't surprise me if it comes in at some point that there'll be some sort of political asylum from people living in the UK who want to come here because it's such a dangerous place to be if you don't, walk lockstep in what the government says you got to think.
Yeah, it's really terrifying.
I think I can't remember what town in the UK it was now, but fairly recently, a guy who was an actual terrorist convicted of actual terrorist crimes and so on, is running for mayor of a town in the UK.
That is wild.
Yeah.
But based on what I've heard, it doesn't surprise me.
No. Yeah. But crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you know, a good way to end this segment is that, you know, you were able to move.
Yes.
And come to a place that honors Christianity and patriarchy.
It does.
Not that the United States does that as a whole, but here it does.
Here it does. Here it does. Well, Texas is the place. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And and really appreciate all your comments and everything you've put in. I got around to as many of them as I could while Jen was out, but we've talked too much today because it was a really good episode. But we're going to bring it to an end now, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep, we will see you next week. Thanks for being here. God bless.